Buenas tardes para todos y todas. Les damos la bienvenida a la charla Evolution of Library Emerging Technology and Impact AA a cargo de Jonathan M. Torres. Él es Data Librarian de la Universidad de Rutgers, Newark, coordinador de servicios para estudiantes de posgrado especializado en alfabetización informacional y visualización de datos, Magister en Library and Information y Science y BA en Relaciones Internacionales de la Universidad de Rutgers, Nuevo Brunswick. Hace parte de Leading Fellow de LIS Education y el programa Data y Science Integrated New World Grow Leading. Sus trabajos de investigación han sido publicados en revistas como Science and Technology Libraries and Journal of Business and Finance Librarianship. Sus intereses de investigación incluyen bibliometría, Almetrics, acceso abierto y gobernanza organizacional en bibliotecas académicas. Quienes estén presentes en este espacio podrán hacer sus preguntas al finalizar la intervención, y quienes estén conectados en YouTube pueden dejar sus preguntas o comentarios en el chat de transmisión. Ahora sí, demos inicio a esta charla. Adelante, Jonathan, te escuchamos.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. It's an honor to be here at the University of Antioquia. I can't thank enough of the committee and the different departments who made this possible for me. My initiative when I came here at the University of Antioquia was to promote what's going on in today's workplace with artificial intelligence and how it's impacting libraries. So I hope that everybody gets the opportunity to review this presentation. And if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'm more than happy to answer them at the end. All right, so just to give everybody an overview of the presentation, I'm going to go over what's the definition of generative AI models. It's a pretty simple definition, but I do want to give it to you, as well as I'm going to give two different definitions as well. The second part is we're going to be dissecting of how artificial intelligence is changing the landscape of higher education and the workplace. And then the second part of the presentation, I'm going to focus on the development of incorporations of AI generative models and library learning strategies. Thirdly, in this section, I'm going to focus on a case study that I've incorporated with my students using ChatGPT and Google's Bard. And I've developed a chart called the research validation chart, which helps students understand the information that they're gathering from both ChatGPT as well as Google. And then to close it out for the third part, I really wanted to take a look at some of the challenges that universities face and opportunities as well with using some of these generative AI models such as Chat and GPT. Next, I'm going to show the importance of keeping up with emerging technologies, and then we'll do a quick Q&A or question and answers. And before I do get started, once again, it's part of my initiative as an educator, as a teacher, to make sure that we are helping our students advance, not only within the degrees, within classrooms, but most importantly, when they go out there in the workplace. And I truly think that artificial intelligence is something that we're going to have to teach our students in library and information science. So the slide that I have on my computer doesn't reflect there. But before we get into it, because I think it's important to define certain definitions, we have two definitions that I wanted to define for everybody, and that is prompt. So prompt, it's a AI engineering terminology that refers to inputting instruction and giving a set of commands to ChatGPT and Bard. And the example I have, it's very similar to what you use in the database or when you're doing Google. So a prompt could be an example like, describe the main causes of effects of climate change, right? So you're just describing exactly what you want, and you're putting it into ChatGPT. So that's exactly where prompt is. You might hear that throughout today's presentation. And the second one is artificial hallucinations. Artificial hallucination refers to images, sounds, or other sensations that are created by a computer or machine. So essentially what it is, it's fake resource, like fake citation, fake articles. That is artificial hallucinations. So two definitions, once again, prompt and artificial hallucinations, you'll hear throughout this presentation. So part one, the fundamentals of generative AI and their impact to the different fields of employment. Okay. So what is generative AI models? So IBM defines generative AI models, refers to it as the deep learning models that can generate high quality text, images, and other content based on the data that they were trained on, right? So we can see here an overview of some of the generative AI models. So you've probably heard of ChatGPT, but it actually started in the beginning with DALL-E. So DALL-E is a generative AI model that anybody can use that creates images based on text and things like that. So you could use media, you can use text, and then we can see it grew exponentially in 2022 with OpenAI, ChatGPT. We saw the different versions in 2023. And then Google came out with one called Bard. Google's Bard is very similar to ChatGPT, where they work very similar in terms of the information that you can get there. And then there's Claude AI. So Claude AI is something that came out relatively recent in March of 2023. We're expecting more generative AI models to come out. So Elon Musk is coming out with one, Facebook will be coming out with others. But this is the ones that were in the media for the most part. Okay, so this is how not to use ChatGPT. So there's plenty of ways of how to use it good. This is an example of how not to use it. So there was a professor at the University of Texas, and he failed more than half of his classes, claiming that they were plagiarizing the papers by getting it from ChatGPT. The professor mentioned that he put their papers into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT told them that they were plagiarizing. That's not the case on how to use it. Unfortunately, the professor was reprimanded because ChatGPT does not work like that. You cannot put essays or assignments into the system, and it doesn't tell you whether it's fabricated or not. It gives you information, but it doesn't tell you whether things are being plagiarized or not. The professor was reprimanded. So that's not how you use it. You don't put essays into it. You don't put documents into it. There's other ways to use it, and that's not it. The second example of how not to use it, there was a lawyer within the United States, and what he decided to do was he decided to use ChatGPT to go to court and use these legal documentations for his court case. When they looked at it, the judge realized that the cases that this lawyer used were entirely fabricated. So it goes back to the definition of artificial hallucination, right? It goes back to, it was fabricating cases. And the remark that the lawyer mentioned here was, I did not comprehend that ChatGPT could fabricate cases, he told the judge. So these aren't, you shouldn't use them to go to court. You shouldn't use them to put students' essays in. So just keep that in mind. All right, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to really see how this is going to impact the workplace, not only within the North America region, but globally. I think artificial intelligence is going to bring a lot of different careers. I think that there's a fear that AI technologies will take a lot of jobs, which may be the case, but I think there'll be more jobs that will be produced out of this. This is essentially the beginning stages of the internet. I don't agree with this particular quotation, but it says in 10 years, half of the world's jobs will be in prompt engineering. So once again, just engineering based on the set of commands and instructions that you give to ChatGPT and Bard. And those who cannot write prompts will be obsolete. That's something I don't agree with. I think that people will adapt to it. People's skills will certainly adapt to it. And there will be more jobs, especially within the professions of library and information science, because essentially what these AI generative models are, they're a system of information, and that's primarily what we deal with in our profession. Okay, so here are some of the industries that are going to be impacted in the next 5 or 10 years, or they're currently doing as well. So as we can see here in this diagram, the picture that says OpenAI is the company who created ChatGPT. And they've been working closely with a lot of different industries, technology being one of them, obviously, but you can see the second one right there says education. So they've been working closely with the education sector to really improve and refine their systems. So we're going to see a shift in education where it's going to be including and integrating generative AI models, as well as other sectors in business, finance, retail, healthcare, government, media, internet, and other. But I think primarily what we do want to focus on is the aspect of technology and education will be the leaders in this space. So what we see here in this particular diagram is some of the areas of education that it will be impacting. So AI is driving personalized learning industry, right? So these are the different ways that AI is impacting education. So whether it's intelligence tutoring, which is a sense of the machine learning with the student, right? So the students' needs are crafted towards the AI, science stimulation. And this is a case of, even till this day, in the sciences, we dissect the animals, we dissect the frogs, we do anatomy and et cetera. With AI now in the science simulation, they can do it entirely through 3D, personalized learning as well. So learning towards the students' education patterns, resources and courses, and educational gaming. So there's a lot of different areas that I believe AI will impact, but I think the education sector will see a big shift within the next couple of years or so. Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to show you is just an overview of the market of artificial intelligence. And we can see here from 2021, when it first started emerging, it probably emerged a little back at 2019, but the data here shows 2021. And we can see that the market and the need for artificial intelligence has grown exponentially, right? So it's going to impact every type of industry, right? So whether it's wealth management, whether it's insurance, whether it's fraud detection, banking, personalized finance management, and et cetera, it's certainly going to have an impact in other industries as well. So, and we're going to see it grow exponentially quick. So the impact that it has in academic libraries. So we see, essentially, we've seen it impact education. We've seen AI impact bankings. But we wanted to know from the perspective how they're impacting academic libraries, right? And there was a survey that came out maybe a couple months ago, and it asked a couple questions to librarians, faculty, and staff about the impact of artificial intelligence in libraries. And some of the questions were, how would you describe your opinion on the potential of generative AI technologies in the context of library services over the next 12 years, right? And we can see some of the responses from the libraries and their staff. Some people say somewhat positive, people are neutral, and some people say very positive. I think what's happening here, when you see these questions, there's a lot of unknowns, especially within the libraries. People are still trying to understand what's going on. The second question is, to what extent is your library currently exploring or implementing generative AI solutions? And the survey that they got back was quite interesting. I'm just looking at it right now. So potentially exploring AI applications. But most but not least, people are considering this within the near future, right? So there is a lot of unknowns in terms of that. So overall, I think that the survey shows that a lot of people really don't understand what's going on in this process right now. And they're starting to want to understand how to implement this within libraries, helping students as well as faculty. Okay. So what are the most relevant potential applications of generative AI and research libraries in the next 12 months? So this particular question asks is, how do they see AI integrating into library services? And the one that came up the most was the chatbots for user support. So implementing a potential chatbot on the library website. The second one that came up was assistance with cataloging and metadata. This can certainly serve for our people who do metadata and cataloging. It can serve as a personal assistant for them. Other ones that also came up is research data and analysis. So I definitely think it's going to impact a lot of different industries and different services that we have within library models, service models. Part 2, how can teachers, librarians, and researchers use AI to their advantage? So this publication came out probably a couple months ago, and it really speaks about like the international aspect of it. This publication, ChatGPT and Artificial Intelligence in Higher Education, and it really broke down 4 areas that it can help within the research process. And the first one was the research design on the right-hand side, really helping students, researchers, and faculty implement their ideas. The second portion was data collection. So I think that this is certainly going to be beneficial within the future in terms of data collection and getting assistance based on AI generative models based on that. Data analysis. Data analysis is something that I currently use as of today using ChatGPT's code interpreter. And last but not least, just writing publications, helping you write your papers, helping it become more structured and things like that. So these AI generative models will certainly help in many facets of the research process, not only for students, but for faculty, as well as researchers across the world. So these are some of the resources that I've used in the past. And there won't be no demonstration today, but I'm just going to explain them one by one. So there's a couple different databases I think anybody can use here. You could apply it to your research. You could apply it to your assignments. And that's the first one is Research Intelligence. If you Google Research Intelligence, this is actually a resource like Google Academic or Google Scholar, where you can pull articles that are free. You can look at author information. You can look at citation, information management. So it works very similar to Google Scholar or some of the academic databases that are out there. I would recommend people using it for their research. The second one that I wanted to really emphasize on was ChatPDF. So ChatPDF, if you Google it, it's essentially a generative AI website that allows you to upload your documents and it could summarize it for you. So let's say, for an example, if I had a research paper that was 80 pages and you are tight on time and you need to read the paper. So if you upload the document and you can ask ChatPDF, give me 5 important points of this paper, and it will give you 5 important points. You can ask this ChatPDF, give me the methodology. Give me in a simplified version of how would you explain to a high schooler or for a college student, and it will certainly do it. So this particular database, ChatPDF, is a assistant to help you digest the information that you have and really understand articles in a short period of time. And for the researchers here who have done papers, you know, it's extensive that you have to write papers and you have to read through the literature. With ChatPDF, it really makes things a lot more quicker and it summarizes a lot of information. All right, so for the good ones that I use on a consistent basis, so this is ChatGPT. ChatGPT you can use for free. There's a paid version, but there's one entirely free. And I would recommend incorporating this in your classroom. So whether it's using it for particular assignments, to create questionnaires. So what I do want to show is this example right here for ChatGPT. It says, create a multiple choice question quiz for the following article. So I'm asking it to create a multiple choice question based on the article that there. And you can see below right here that it provided multiple choice questions. So it can help in that context. So if you have information that you wanted a multiple choice, if you wanted to do things like that, you can certainly have ChatGPT do it, and it will certainly do it. The second resource that I would recommend is the AI Claude or Claude AI. And this is very similar to ChatGPT. How I use this in the context that when I'm doing this with my students is we'll do it for brainstorming sessions. So I usually tell my class, okay, let's brainstorm a few topics that you want. So let's say, for an example, I wanted to brainstorm higher education, colleges, and the impact of artificial intelligence. And I wanted to see what it gives me in terms of ideas. And what it does, it gives me 10 ideas about certain topics. So it's good to brainstorm. It's good to do as an exercise for classes that you can do, and you can brainstorm together with the classes, with the students as well. So you can use this in a wide variety of different ways. These other ones are really focused primarily on academic databases. The literature is actually used, they use PubMed information, and it's totally free. And this particular database, the literature, allows you to pull information, but it allows you to synthesize and summarize information based on your topic. So I would use the example, if I was to use this, give me people who have diabetes based on demographics and age. And what it would do, it would collect all the literature in PubMed, and it would provide a summary of the information of what they think it is. So it gives you an analysis based on your research topic. Other things that you could do with the literature, if you can create surveys, you can create questions for your classes, you can create quizzes. I would say give it a look, especially if you're into focusing on medical literature and things like that. This particular database is a really go-to resource for everyone. The second database that I would recommend as well, and it works very similar hand in hand, is the consensus.app right there. And you can put in the question. And when you put in the question, it gives you the opportunity to summarize the information based on the articles that it has. You can pull the publications, you can pull the citations. And as you can see here, it gives you a thing called the census meter. And what that is if you ask the question, I believe the question was here, does creatine help build muscle, right? Just a general question. So it'll give you an analysis based on the publications that it looked to assess. So the percentage there, it says more yes than possibly. So it's giving you an analysis based on your question. It's a really good resource to use. I would highly recommend using it. And I have a couple more to show you as well. So for the quantitative aspect, the data, statistical analysis as well, there's a lot of different resources that you can use, especially if you're using statistical analysis for your research. There is the ChatGPT code interpreter, and I use this as well. And it's really straightforward. So if you have data sets, you can upload the data, and it can provide you a statistical analysis. It can provide you charts and tables. So you can see right here, I asked it to provide me a couple different charts and tables based on the data that I had. So it actually reduces a lot of the analysis that goes on for the individual. because sometimes it's difficult if you don't have a background in statistics, or maybe, you know, you're looking for something more advanced. ChatGPT code interpreter certainly can do that for you, where it can interpret the data for you and provide tables and charts and other forms of data visualization. And Rose is another one. Rose is like Microsoft Excel. You can use that for calculation, mathematical equations, and it will generate an analysis based on that data. So these two different resources certainly provide quantitative aspects to generative AI models and things like that, and certainly have been beneficial when I've used them as well. I would say the code interpreter right now for this is not free, but I think it will be free within the next 6 months. And Rose is completely free, so if you register for it, you can certainly get access to it. All right, part 2. How can teachers, librarians, and researchers use AI to their advantage with art imaging and others using GenCraft and Lexicon? So these are actually art creators, art generators. They're not the best yet. They're not the best, but they're pretty good. So if you use one of these, you can generate, you can put anything. I put a bunch of different things. You can see right here, I put a tiger reading a book and it generated this. I put library and superheroes and it created that on the right-hand side, and etc. So it uses your text to generate images as well as videos as well. This resource could be used if you're doing stuff in related to art. You can use this in terms of anything, in terms of using it for your website as well, if you do website and web design and things like that. So it's getting better. I don't think it's at the stage where we would want it to be, but most importantly, I think it's going to be something that's going to grow exponentially in terms of it improving. Okay. So a case study that I've done with my classes where I've developed pedagogical strategies by using ChatGPT and BARD for academic librarians. And I've actually, this paper I've published, and it should be out for the public in the next couple months or so. So, perfect. No. Yes, thank you. Okay. So this particular example is what I use for my students. So I asked my students in one of the business classes if they can get a SWOT analysis. So just to give you context of what a SWOT analysis is, it stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of a company. So they're assessing the strong parts of the company, the weakest parts of the company, opportunities for the company, and the threats against the company. And what I told them was to ask ChatGPT and BARD for a SWOT analysis. And what I wanted my students to do was to cross-examine this information with credible databases, right? So what I did was, I made the students create what's called a research validation chart. And as you can see here, it has BARD, and then it has ChatGPT on one table. So table 1 and table 3, and table 4 is BARD. And the first column just shows the information that's given to both different generative AI models. And then the two databases that we looked at to cross-examine the information was Factiva and Business Source Premier. These are business databases that we have access to. And the goal for this particular exercise with my class is to make sure that they have an understanding of what type of information is coming out of ChatGPT and BARD. Is to make sure that the information is credible. And we can see right here the columns right in the bottom. Is this information outdated? Yes or no? And Did the business databases justify the area given by ChatGPT or BARD? Yes or no? And we did this exercise together, and our findings were so with table 3 and 4 shows that 25% of the information that was generated from ChatGPT and BARD could not be justified as a credible resource. So this is important because a lot of the students and even some of the faculty as well think that these AI generative models will produce good information. And that's not the case in this particular area. So 25% was considered not credible. So the information that was generated by these AI generative models, while 25% of the information was considered outdated, right? And we want to make sure that we understand that, because if the information is outdated, especially for a project, then you're not validating the project and assignment that's needed. So you want to make sure that the information is up to date, and 25% of it was outdated. And last but not least, both tables, and this is actually a positive thing, showed a promising trajectory, as both columns were 75%. It provided current information, and it was justified based on Business Source Premier and Factiva. So, these AI generative models really have a lot of promise, right? But they're not perfect as of yet. And that's something that I wanted to really emphasize in this particular project. All right, so in the conclusion of this particular case study, we found that the SWOT analysis produced by ChatGPT and BARD did not produce any artificial hallucinations. So this is something to go back to our definitions. Both AI chatbots cannot be used to incorporate learning strategies when teaching information literacy in conjunction with other library resources. So you can certainly incorporate these AI generative models like BARD and ChatGPT into your learning practices, because it's important, because these particular tools and AI are not going away. The use of the research validation chart proves to be effective when cross-examining information from 2 different business databases. And last but not least, I feel that the platforms of artificial intelligence can teach information and data literacy when you're doing it within the classrooms, may give academic librarians the advantage as experts in teaching practices for higher education, and may lead to stronger collaborations with different faculty and different departments. Part 3, challenges and opportunities with AI. So some of the challenges and opportunities with AI is there's not any policies, there's no global policies or any implications of having policies as of yet across academia and different departments. So these are some of the implications that they wish to implement in the future. According to this particular publication, recommendations on the ethics of artificial intelligence. The first one is system-wide visions and strategic priorities. The second one is overarching principles for AI in education. The third one is interdisciplinary planning and intersectoral governance, so having policies to really understand the material out there, policies and regulations for equitable, inclusive, and the ethical use of AI, because I think that that's going to be a big issue moving forward. Having a master plan for using AI education and management, teaching, learning, and assessment, pilot testing it, evaluation, and building an evidence base in order to effectively implement this within classrooms. And last but not least, fostering local artificial intelligence innovations for education is going to be critical for the development in this. Okay. So there's literature that came out based on higher education and artificial intelligence. And just want to tell everybody, this is an emerging field, so there's not that much literature out there. So in this particular article that's titled An Initial Interpretation of the U.S. Department of Education's AI Report, Implications and Recommendations for Academic Libraries. In this particular quote, it really struck out to me because they're speaking about having an integrated and strategic partnership with other departments and making sure that they have policies and foundations associated with it. So I'm just going to read out this quote really quick. As AI continues to evolve and become more integrated into our educational system, it is critical for academic libraries to stay informed and involved by promoting AI literacy, involving librarians in AI implementations, developing guidelines for AI use, preparing AI issues, implementing other shareholders from different departments. Academic libraries could effectively navigate the artificial intelligence landscape and harness its potential, enhance library services and operations. So it's a lot of information to take in, but I think it's something that even the Department of Education knows that there's a great deal and great work to be done in this area, and there needs to be kind of a big strategic initiative moving forward. So this particular article talks about the integration and integrating this into library and information science curriculums, because I think that it's going to be extremely important that we do that relatively soon. So the title, Artificial Intelligence and Robots in Libraries, Opportunities in LIS Curriculums and Preparing Librarians of Tomorrow. So it really essentially speaks about what I was saying all along about implementing this within curriculums, right? We want to make sure that our students understand how to use these tools and resources. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that I feel that librarians have the advantage in this profession or in this particular field. This quote really struck out to me, where it mentions that its fundamentals, workings, and limitations of AI and current and potential benefits, problems arising in it. This would involve the collaboration of other disciplines such as computer science for domain knowledge. So having collaborations with different departments is going to be essential. And the other quote that really struck out with me is the opportunities for professional development. So for librarians who are out there in the workplace, whether it's academic libraries or public libraries, that these particular librarians can go back and relearn this as a professional development opportunity to get certifications and things like that to improve their skill sets. And they can integrate this artificial intelligence into their skill sets to better service the people. So in conclusion, so my 5 points is pretty straightforward. It's being a part of the library and information science field offers numerous advantages that should not be overlooked. And this is very important. I think our profession, and I've said this several times during this presentation, we have the advantage because we handle the information, whether it's books and literatures, the database, the data management, et cetera, that we need to make sure that we're at the forefront of this. Librarians and information specialists must be willing to adapt to the current environment of artificial intelligence. So hopefully we have people who don't resist this technological trend, because I think there's this sense of unknowns for a lot of people within our professions, but I think if we embrace it, we can certainly get ahead of it. Studies have indicated that the library community should not overlook AI technologies such as ChatGPT, as well as should not overlook technologies such as ChatGPT as it overlooked Google and Web 2.0 in the beginning stages, proved to be a costly error. So this is something that I've mentioned before, that right in the beginning stages of Google and Web 2.0, the field of library and information science didn't really get a head start on it. We actually kind of got somewhat of a late start to it. So these AI emerging technologies, we need to make sure that we are ahead of the game in terms of the resources out there and how we can integrate them. And last but not least, the urgency to incorporate artificial intelligence education into library and information science curriculums to give new graduates an advantage when entering the workplace. Okay. All right, so I actually forgot to put the QR code, so I'm going to give everybody my information. So I created a ebook for everybody. So it's not 50 AI tools. I had to really put this together quick. It's 30. 30 AI tools for everybody. It's not 50. And what it is, it's recommendations for AI that you could apply. So whether it's for research, whether it's for data, whether it's for literature, and etc. So I was supposed to put the QR code there. I forgot to put it. And I'll give you the website as well, so you can just download it immediately. All right. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone for having me. I'm honored to be here. If you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to contact me at any time, whether it's through LinkedIn, whether it's through WhatsApp or Twitter. If you don't get the ebook for whatever reason, please email me directly or text me on WhatsApp, and I will give you the ebook for free. With that being said, thank you so much.
Bueno, a continuación abrimos espacio para preguntas. Si alguien en este espacio desea hacerle alguna pregunta a nuestro invitado, también desde el canal de YouTube pueden dejar las preguntas en nuestro chat. Una pregunta, question. How can libraries ensure ethical use of artificial intelligence while integrating all technologies into their service?
That's a great question. I think it's going to depend on how the library organization adapts to it. So it's going to be a step-by-step process. I think the issue is having an understanding what's out there. So there's a lot of different AI, different tools, hundreds now. There's hundreds of AI different tools. So it's understanding, having a person that can understand what's out there, having a person that can understand what's effective, and then integrating this into library services and using them ethically, because I think that's important too. You want people to use this information ethically, and you want to make sure that libraries or the library that you work at has a foundational understanding of how to use it, because that's going to be important. So I think it's a three-part process. It's understanding what's out there, what's the best one, and then integrating this within like library organizations. And then I should say four, creating policies to implement this to be for students, faculty, and staff to use it ethically, because that's going to be important. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer. Una pregunta.
So, I understand that Elsevier Scientific Editorial acquired some ChatGPT or some app for integrated to his databases. So did you think that that will change the scientific communication in the future, or maybe the next 2-3 years for publication with some IA?
That's a great question. I think what's happening now is, especially with publishing, it's a challenge now, because there's a lot of different publications that you cannot tell whether artificial intelligence is writing or an assistant, or there's no guidelines of what you can use in terms of assistance with AI or not. So there has to be guidelines moving forward. I just don't know what to do at this moment. I know I use AI assistant for some of my papers, not all of it. But you know, it certainly helps. So there has to be guidelines and some efficacies if you're publishing in these academic journals, to consider what's considered ethical use of AI, what's not considered use of ethical AI, and things like that. Because we're noticing that they have AI applications that allows you to see whether AI wrote half of the paper or all of the paper and things like that. So there's things like that, but I just don't know right now what's the solution to what's going to go on in the scientific landscape of academia, as well as just the social science landscape of academia as well, with incorporating AI, but we'll find out.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? Bueno, agradecemos a Jonathan M. Torres por tan valiosa charla, también a todas y todos por acompañarnos en este espacio académico. Claro que sí. Other question? How can library science programs effectively incorporate training on artificial intelligence to equip students with the skills to leverage a tool for efficient information management?
That's a great question. I think for the most part, I think it's going to depend on the process. Thank you. Give me 1 minute because it was like a two-part question. Yes, so that's a good question. So I think it's going to depend on your teaching strategy. So how you're incorporating these resources into your classrooms, right? When it comes to information management. As you've seen, I used several different strategies, such as the research validation chart, where the students could use AI, but they have to use databases as well. For information management, it really is going to depend on like the type of information you're using. So whether it's metadata or whether it's quantitative data that's used for like finance. But I think that AI can serve as an assistant when you're using these things as well. And that's what we want. We don't want these applications to do everything, right? Because I think that causes a fear within a lot of people's professions and jobs and things like that. But we want this to serve as something that we can use to help us improve efficiency, to help us improve time, whether it's incorporating it into classrooms with information management, or most importantly, whether you're a faculty or a researcher and you're writing a research paper, it's all about efficiency. So I think that's kind of the core of what I'm trying to get at, is trying to incorporate this within your classrooms with making sure that the students are using it to promote efficiency rather than using it for like an entire project or an assignment. Great question. Thank you.
You read the other question.
So the other question, I think I skipped one. I will get back to that. Could you mention the knowledge and skill of students must develop to face these challenges in artificial intelligence? That's a great question. So I think it's just a matter of really understanding what's out there. So as part of a scholar in AI pedagogy right now, what I try to do is I try to really explore the different resources that are out there. And then I try to see how can I apply within students and faculty as well. So I think our students need to be a little more curious in terms of what resources are out there and how to use them effectively. Because there's not a curriculum out there. There's not a curriculum out there. And there's not a framework out there for library and information science programs that have AI. So we want the students to be more curious, to look at these different resources, these AI applications, and to see how they can leverage it, whether it's in their classrooms, whether it's to help them do stuff to improve their reading, writing, and etc. So I think that's the way. It's to be more curious. And there was a question that I missed. And it is, how can library science programs effectively incorporate training on artificial intelligence to equip students with the, I think I read that one, I'm sorry. Could you mention that the knowledge skilled students, I read that one. I think the last one was the first one. How can libraries ensure ethical use of AI while integrating AI technologies into their services? I think I covered all of them, but I just wanted to mention overall, I think that these are things that we are going to encounter in the next 6 months to a year, and we really have to do the best we can to get ahead of it, to writing literature, to immersing ourselves into it, and most importantly, for library and information science programs around the world, whether it's here, whether it's in the US and beyond, is to figure out ways to incorporate this into the curriculums, because this is going to be a very, very needed skill set that our students need to graduate. Once they do graduate and they get to the workplace, that they'll be very versatile in what they can do. So whether they want to work in a library, whether they want to work for a technology company, and et cetera, this will give them a wide variety of different skills. And that's why, just to go back to what I was saying, our profession of library and information science has the advantage, I think, among most programs.
I have two questions. Which artificial intelligence have the most evolution for educational process? With the better, ChatGPT, BARD, or other? And the other question is artificial intelligence threat to libraries like the internet was?
Also, Jonathan, can we share the presentation with the people in the room? And
Yes, so just to let everyone know, my presentation will be available for everybody. And to answer your question, so it just depends. I think they do a lot of the same things. Chat and GPT do a lot of the different things. So I don't think that there's a better one than the other, but I think it's just, you just play around with it and you see which one's better for you. I've had really good success with ChatGPT in terms of the content that comes out of it. Google Bar is good for like fundamental questions, really simple questions. ChatGPT much more complex. But luckily, I'm just gonna go back to the slide. Luckily, I wrote this ebook that everybody's gonna have access to, so I have just a list of different databases that you can use for it. And as you mentioned about the AI and its beginning, like the beginning stages of like the internet, it's exactly what and this is my opinion, just to let everybody know out there who's on the video, it's my opinion that we're in the beginning stages of something like the internet. And that's why I mentioned that we have to get ahead of it. This is not going away anytime soon. So it's most important for us to really leverage ourselves with these tools and be more immersed in them. So.
Bueno, agradecemos nuevamente a nuestro invitado, a todas y todos los que nos acompañan desde este espacio y desde la transmisión en YouTube. Gracias por participar en este espacio académico de la Escuela Interamericana de Bibliotecología y que tengan un feliz resto de tarde.